Well, I'm very happy to say it's taken a while, but I'm with my old friend Dog Varley, Leon Dog Varley. Dog, I think we've been mates for over 50 years.
Yeah, we met in Cape Town in 1979. Yeah, I just got out of the army, and you were attempting and failing to become a lawyer, if I remember right.
Dog,
It,
I think
it took you about 5 years, but you passed, but you've never practiced.
looking back, we've had a few scraps. I think I lost most of them, but
Yeah, you lost all. Yeah,
and I just want to say one of the big mistakes I think you've made in life is you've never really listened to me. I think
yeah.
you might have got somewhere.
It was highly debatable. You should have listened to yourself, and you would probably been a more of a success. But anyway, it's been a great friendship, tumultuous at times, but
Yeah,
it's been good knowing you.
yeah. Thanks, dogs. I've got lots of happy memories, I've got to say. Lots of excitement, lots of good times. So maybe we can talk about a few of them. But dog, let's just we're going to get to the sad part later. But and the trouble, the challenges you and your family are facing, which we hope we can address. But let's just start at the beginning, dog. Growing up in Rhodesia, you were born.
Yeah, yeah. I was born actually. My folks were here since 1948 in Zimbabwe, Rhodesia. Uh, I was my mom when I was due went to South Africa, and I was born in South Africa. But I came back here. I think I was 2 weeks old when I came back. So yeah, Rhodesian born, Zimbabwe, Rhodesian bred, and living in Zimbabwe. Yeah. So brought up on a tobacco farm just outside Harare, about 40, 50 k's outside Harare, a place called Norton. Went to Dudley Hall, at the time Norton Junior School, but now Dudley Hall. Went there as a day scholar, and then after that I was went to Plumtree.
Yeah, who was your vintage? Leon at Plumtree.
Well, my vintage, yeah, I got there in '66, and I was there till '71. My vintage were guys you would know. Dave Masson was a little bit older than me.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, Graham Wilson was there. He was senior to me. Yeah, that sort of era. A lot of guys that went into the army. Henson was just before me. Charlie Johnson, was my brother's best friend, was killed in the war. I was sort of that vintage. You would know quite a few of them from that time.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, a lot of characters.
Yeah, Pete Simmons.
Pete Simmons was there, and his two younger brothers, Ant and Tupper. Uh, Pete was older than me. Ant and Tupper were 1 year younger than me, but good friends. Played rugby with them. Good guys. Yeah.
And Paul Connolly was also your.
Yeah, Paul Connolly was the same year as me. He was a bane of my life. He was always a very funny, and he's still here. He's living in Victoria Falls. Probably my oldest friend that I'm in direct contact with. In fact, we're having coffee together later on. Yeah, Paul, but he was a bane of my life. He was the bane of my life. He was always a great athlete, and I was an average athlete. So if you had six people on the track, he would always win, and I would come last. But my mom said, "Oh, you used to be such a good athlete." So I said, "Mom, I'm the sixth best in the school." And she says, "Yeah, but you came last." She could never get her head around that I was a average, fairly good athlete, even though I was coming sixth. I was sixth best in the whole. So Conley was practically the bane of my life. But anyway, we're very good friends now.
Doug, then after school, you wanted to have a crack at journalism initially, didn't you?
Yeah, I wanted to crack at journalism. I my I went farming first. I did my national service straight away. Did it in engineers. And after I left there, I wanted to, I was sort of had it in my mind to go to journalism, but I didn't. My folks were going through a financial sort of crisis at the time. So I went farming for a bit. I didn't like that. And then I went to Botswana and worked as a camp manager for a hunting safari outfit for a couple of months. But he ducked and left me stranded in the middle of Botswana with owing me 3 months' pay. And I had to sort of hitchhike back to Zimbabwe. Uh, and then after that, my folks probably were struggling financially. So I got a job in Namibia on the diamond mines at Ronimund. And I was there for 18 months. I had enough money to go to university, but I thought I'd go and give the newspaper a try first. So I went and saw them and told them I wanted to go to Rhodes University and all the rest of it. And they said, "Well, all you're going to do at Rhodes University is chase women and get drunk. So why don't you do a cadetship with us?" Anyway, they gave me an internal exam, and I wrote a story for them. And they said, "Oh, well, your spelling needs improving, but yeah, you look like you got some potential." So I joined the newspaper, Star newspaper, 1974, I think. And I was with him for about 2 years. Not a very good journalist. I was supposed to write about the bad guys, but I was most of the time my sympathy was with the bad guys rather than the good guys, and I found it very, very, very boring. A couple of interesting things during the Fox Street siege and various things.
Okay.
Anyway, every holiday I would go out and every time I got off, I'd go to Mozambique that was just getting independence at the time, or come here. The Rhodesian War was full on. Or go to Namibia and write stories. And then eventually, Wolf Nussie, who was in charge of the Argus African News Service, he called me up and said, "Your stories are pretty good. You need a lot of polishing, but they're pretty good." And I said, "Well, sir, is there any chance of joining the Argus African News Service?" And he said, "Yeah, I thought you were trying to take a shortcut. Why do you want to come to Argus African News Service?" And I said to him, "Well, sir, if I have to go to another flower show or opening of a church or a synagogue or something, I'm going to take a gun and shoot the guest speaker because I'm sick to death of it, and I won't be writing about the story. I will be the story." Anyway, he laughed and said, he said, "Well, you know that there's a waiting list to get into the Argus African News Service." And I said, "Yes, I realized that. How long am I looking at?" And he said, "About 5 years. When you're 21 years old, 21 years old, 5 years is eternity." So I said, "To hell with that." And I went upstairs and handed my resignation. And so I resigned. I wrote a couple of stories afterwards, a couple that you stole off me. But so then I went to worked for a mining company for 6 months, 9 months, I think 9 months. Had enough money to go overseas. So I went overseas for 18 months. Lived in the Middle East for a year, traveled around Europe for another 6, 7, 8 months. I saw a lot of stuff, always on the bones of my arse. Didn't have much money, but it was an interesting experience. And then, I had the Star newspaper was fairly liberal. I had fairly liberal sort of bent at that stage, much more liberal than what the average Rhodesian had. But a lot of my mates are getting killed. A lot of guys are getting wounded, killed. And even though I was torn between my sort of liberalism and my friends dying and feeling very, very guilty about it. So I came back to Rhodesia sometime in 77, I think, 77. And I wanted to serve in a black unit, and the Selous Scouts was getting a lot of press at that stage. So I thought, well, I'll give it a bash, even though was not very fit, and I'd spent 5 years, messing around and drinking and smoking and all the rest of it. So I wasn't very fit. Anyway, so I went applied for the selection, and I went into the selection. I think it was October 77. Yeah. It was a tough 17, 18 days for the selection. I can't remember how many blacks applied, but there was 108 Europeans. 8 Europeans came out the other side. The rest, 100, dropped out.
Tell us a little bit about the selection, Dog. Where did you go?
Well, it was all at Waffa at Lake Kariba.
Yeah.
Tough, eh? Yeah, I mean, you only got fed every third. You got one meal every third day or something. That didn't bother me too much. Lack of sleep was the main thing. That you'd be doing all day, and then at night you would be, having lectures or singing songs or whatever, and then you had to go out to wherever your base camp was. Normally about 2 kilometers from the camp. And then 2 hours guard every night, and then you had to be back at the parade ground at 5, 6 in the morning. So lack of sleep. We only get about 4 hours sleep a day. Sometimes, guys would fall asleep all the time. Standing up would fall asleep. the lack of food was hard. Very, very physical, very, very physical. And as I said, I was pretty not too fit, but I think like most selections, from what I gather, I've read up a lot about it. Probably, they say, and this goes across the board, 40% of it's actually physical. When you get to, when you think I'm finished, I'm done, works out about 40-50%. And then something kicks in, and it's mental. The next thing that kicks in is the mental, your mental status. And 50 to 60% it becomes mental. And then before you're 100% done, it means you're physically done and mentally done. And physically done, I was done by, I would say, 40-50%, and the other 50% was mental. Mainly because a lot of people, I think including you, said, well, you're not fit enough, you're going to fail. So it became a matter of pride to pass it. Anyway, 8 of us out of the 108 got through. They let in another 3 guys that had done pretty well, and they failed because of things out of their control. But so it ended up 11 of us in the unit in that selection.
Who were your instructors, Dog? And who were the other guys that came through with you?
Ant White was the chief instructor. Ant White was the chief instructor. Chris Robbins was there. Piet van der Riet was Willie van der Riet was one of the things. And the other guys that got through. Sorry, carry on.
No, just the other guys on the course with you.
The other guys that got through, Stewie Hodgson. Okay. He got through. Donaldson, he got through. Brian Donaldson, unfortunately he's now passed. Brian Donaldson got through. Dave Rhodes was let in. Ian Waller was let in, even though they hadn't passed the course. They fell through things out of their control. I'm trying to remember the other guys. Ian Waller I mentioned. There were 11 guys. If I had time, I'd remember the names. I can't remember them at the moment, although. I remember all of them.
And Dog, when did you first meet Ronry Daly? Did you meet him on selection or only after?
I met him on selection. He came and gave a talk. One of the instructors, I knew all about him, of course, because people that had bought our farm that served with him in Malaysia. And they had nothing but praise for him, even when he was just a junior lance jack. In Malaysia, he did some incredible things.
And Jeremy Strong, did you have much to do with him?
Jeremy Strong, no. Funny, he had just left the unit.
Oh, okay.
But funny enough, a very funny thing happened. I was visiting a girlfriend down in the Eastern Transvaal, Bushman Rock. And some guy went over and grabbed my girlfriend's boobs, and I'd flattened him. And he turned out he was a cop. And there was this huge brawl at Bushman Rock, which the manager was a guy, Dutchy. Then he came and broke it up, and it was his stepson, I think, I got into a punch-up with. Anyway, so we got out of there, and I went there the next day to apologize to Dutchy for the fight. And he said, no, I saw what had happened. You're right. And then while I'm there, 3 policemen turned up in uniform. And one of the guys was this guy I'd beaten up. And they said they were coming to arrest me for assault. So on a policeman. I said, hey, you weren't in uniform and you lay a charge against me for assault. I'm going to lay a charge against you for indecent assault. Anyway, while this is happening, a whole lot of army officers came in. And one of them just happened to be Jeremy Strong. And I saw the uniform and I recognized him. Anyway, he came straight over. He said, you're a familiar face, because I had bumped into him in the past. And I said, yes, sir, and this, and I filled him on what was happening with the unit. Anyway, these policemen then tried to arrest me, and he said, what's going on here? And I told him, and he said, oh, is that so? And he went over and he got hold of some senior brass. He happened to be on a staff officer's course.
Yes.
Yeah, staff officer's course in Eastern Transvaal at the time.
Yeah.
Anyway, he came over, so he went out and got some guy with a huge amount of brass, the colonel, I think. And he came over and said, "Yeah, what's the problem?" And I told him. He said, he turned to these cops and said, "Get out of here before there's a major problem." And they just left. So that's the first time I actually met Jeremy Stronger, though I had bumped into him in the past. So anyway, Jeremy, if you're listening, thank you very much. You got me out of serious trouble there.
Look,
So I stayed in for about just over 18 months, I think, in the unit. So very.
Just go quickly back to Jeremy. He was Plumtree boy, Sword of Honor at Sandhurst, and I think his son also got the Sword of Honor at Sandhurst and went on to do very well in the British military.
Yeah, he actually. I got mixed up. I thought my son went into the British Army as well, and there was a Strong there, and I thought that was Jeremy's son. But apparently it was another Strong, also Zimbabwean, but another Strong.
Yes, so, there was another Strong.
It was another Strong, yeah. So I always thought it was Jeremy Strong, but I was mistaken in that it was another Strong. Anyway, he was in, my son went in, did about 3 years, served in Kosovo, and had some interesting stuff, yeah.
So, Dog, selection over, which troop did you go to? Who was your troop commander?
I went into 1 Group 3 troop. Tim Bax was the 1 Group commander, I think. I went to Rasapi. Fitzsimmons. Fitzsimmons was my boss, and there was Paul Kruger, sadly deceased. He was one of the sergeant major, and probably one of the best soldiers I've ever come across was Willie van der Riet. He was my sergeant major. Good soldier.
Doing pseudo work in what
I did
TTL.
I did very little pseudo work, Hannes. Come to think back, I had a pretty quiet time of my military service. I spent 18 months sitting on hills, OPing with 2 captured guerrillas that had been turned. I didn't sleep for the first deployment, thinking, man, I'm out here with two captured guerrillas. Man, I could, how do I know that they are? Just I saw a lot of action, but I was involved with very little action. I think in my entire time in the unit, I only had I think 6 contacts in that entire time. You see an RLI guy, and he's probably would do that every week. So you've asked me to do podcast, do one of these talks before, and I felt like a bit of a fraud doing one because I saw so little action. Although it was short period of my life, only 18, 19 months, I think. But formative, getting through selection, the guys I met, the guys I mixed with. Yeah, pretty formative part of my life, I would think.
Dog, you were involved in the contact when Lord Richard Sisle, or Sisle is the correct way to pronounce it. Was killed. Just tell us about that operation and what you remember.
Yeah, I was. I think it was where Communal Land TTL. I was down on the. I think it was Willie van der Riet was the commanding officer. Was the senior NCO there. I'd found a group, but I only had small means. So I got hold of, I think it was Willie, yeah. I got hold of Willie and gave him the log stats and all the rest of it.
So you picked up a group from an OP?
From an OP, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But I didn't have a big means. I only had a small means with me for some reason. I can't remember why. Anyway, I relayed I think I relayed it to Willie. Willie did and also did the call-in, but I gave him the LZs. I gave him the LZs
and the log stats.
Yeah, the log stats for the LZs. And then the choppers came in, and there was the group of guerrillas that I'd actually seen were in 2 groups. I'd seen 1 group. There was another group a couple of 100 meters away from the main group. And when the choppers came in, I saw them disembark. I saw, and that chopper was opened up on. I saw a guy go down. And then I heard I was listening on the radio, and who happened to be, I remember the name now, was the commanding officer, was the commander on that group. And
Dennison.
He got on his...
Major Dennison.
No, Dennison was in the air.
Oh, no.
Dennison was in the air.
Yes, but it
Uh,
was an RAR. It was an RAR Fire Force, wasn't it? It
yeah, I
wasn't
think it
on.
might no, no, yeah, it might have been an RAR, but yeah, it was an RAR, but it was a white guy on the ground. I don't know. I
Yes,
remember the he anyway. He got on the radio and said, "Richard's down."
Richard Sisle. Yeah.
Yeah, Richard Sisle is down, and he said, "Can you get a chopper down here?" And then Dennison was trying to organise it, and then Floppy was his name. No, his brother's Vincent. Vincent was who's also unfortunately deceased. He was with the call sign that where Richard Sisle was killed.
Okay.
He was in, yeah, and he anyway. Dennison was trying to get a chopper down, and then Floppy came back on the Vincent came back on the radio and said he's dead, but I want him lifted. And Dennison said, "Well, he's dead, and I can't risk a chopper to pick up a dead guy." So yeah, I saw it happen, and a little bit my fault because I hadn't seen the other group. But yeah, that's just one of those things that happens. Eh?
Dog, you got to the rank. You were promoted. You got a few stripes.
Yeah, I ended up as acting sergeant. Yeah, I wasn't a very good soldier, and I wasn't in long enough. Yeah, and as I said, if I could do the whole thing again, I probably wouldn't have gone in regulars. I would have stayed with TF and done a permanent call up. They saw a lot more interesting stuff than I did. Although, I mean, yeah, you're still in those hills uh, day after day after day after day, 18 there for 18 months. I did a couple of externals. I did one external into Mozambique where we got compromised and chased for a couple of days. Yeah, and then I did a couple of internals, couple of pseudo work. But mainly when I did the pseudo work, Willie van der Riet was the one actually in charge of them, or Chris Robbins was there for a while. Stannard joined us for a while. Tough guy, but he got very disillusioned with the Scouts very quickly. Rich Stannard, and he left and went back to SAS, I think. Yeah, he went back to SAS. But he was with us very briefly. Rusapi was right in the middle of it. There was a lot of stuff going on at Rusapi.
Yeah. Yeah. Chiduku. Chiduku was the
Yeah,
problem
yeah.
TGL there. There was a.
Yeah, and our area was right. I mean, our area was right up top Elam Mission, all the way down to Hot Springs, because I deployed all of those areas. Uh,
Were
I
you
mean,
were
that,
you were you around when Elam Mission massacre took place when the mission station was attacked?
yeah, I was. In fact, we were the closest Scouts call sign to it. We weren't that far away. And of course, when Scouts got blamed for it, I was enraged because I
Mm.
was the closest person. There's no ways they would have sent in a pseudo group without informing us because I was the closest Scouts call sign to Elam Mission. Yeah, I mean that was a big thing. And when one of the Viscounts went down, I wasn't close to that, but yeah, those are big parts of the whole experience. Yeah,
It's interesting, Doug, because that allegation that the Selous Scouts were responsible went to the highest level because the British Foreign Secretary at the time, David Owen, actually went public with that
yeah,
and let the world know that as far as the British Foreign Office were concerned, this was the work of the Selous Scouts. I mean, an absolute lie.
yeah. I
But
just straight out lie. I was the closest call sign to Elam Mission because we got a radio message that day. Got a radio thing telling us what had happened and telling everyone to because we were deployed in that area to be on the lookout for that gang. And I happened to be the closest call sign to that Elam Mission. And there's no ways they would have sent a pseudo group into that area without freezing it, without letting us know, because we could end up calling a fire force in on a pseudo group. Yeah. So I know for a fact it wasn't the Scouts.
well, it's actually quite nice to have it on the record. I think most people, well, there was a book written by a chap named Griffiths, Stephen, I think Stephen Griffiths. I had a bit of communication with him when he was writing the book. His parents were there, but on that particular night, just fortuitously, they weren't at the mission. So they survived. But he wrote a book, I think it's called The Axe and the Tree. Have you read it or heard about it?
I haven't read it. I've heard about it, but I haven't read it.
Because he actually writes about having met up with one of the perpetrators, who's now a born again Christian, I think, living in England
That's
or
right.
something. I forget his
Yeah.
name. But
Yeah.
you know, this chap explains exactly why it was done, how they did it. I think a lot of them were actually high on some narcotic of some sort that particular night, but that doesn't really change anything. But the fact is, at the time, the world was led to believe that that this was the Selous Scout uh, operation to discredit the Mugabe.
No, look, I just look. I looked at a lot of stuff went on in the war that we didn't know. I mean, there were things that happened that I couldn't say yes or no. That happened. That one, that particular one, I was the closest call sign. So, so anybody who says that it was a Selous Scout thing, give them my address and tell them to come and say it to my face, because I was the closest call sign.
Dog, Bert Sachs, he spent a lot of time in Manicaland. Did you come under him at all?
I did one external and Bert Sachs was in charge of it. It was that when we were trying to cut the Spungabera Road, Roddy Smith was in charge of us, and we were trying to cut the. Oh no, sorry, it wasn't him. It was Whispering Jim Lafty
Okay,
was
Jim.
in charge of it. Yeah, and we got somebody got snake bit. We were trying to cut the Spungabera Road, and somebody got bitten by a snake. Anyway, he went down that night, and we gave him that multi venom anti venom. I think
Mm,
you remember.
mm.
I think he gave, and anyway, he had an anaphylactic shock, and he stopped breathing about 2 or 3 times during the night, and we managed to CPR him, and then we came around anyway. A chopper came in the next morning, and chopper came in the next morning and uplifted him. And when the chopper came in and uplifted him, of course, it compromised us. And Fred's chased us for about, I think, 2 days, 3 days, man. We were on the run. And eventually they didn't have enough choppers to pick us all up at one time. So they managed to free up one chopper that came in and picked, two choppers that took out half the stick and then took out the other. Uh, and then there were 4 of us left. I think 4 or 5 of us. Hull was one. Hull
Alistair.
was one of them. Yeah, Hull was one of them. Ian Waller was the other, and we were the last stick to be picked up and taken out. And then got back, and Alberta, in his usual fashion, he was a great guy. Alberta, I loved him. He said to me, were you feeling lonely out there?" I said, "So you got to believe it. That was even though I had my 4 buddies with me, that was the loneliest I've ever been in my life." Yeah,
I see a bit of Bert every now and again. He's
yeah,
still out in Simonstown. Um,
okay,
he got up
yeah,
to a lot of tricks afterwards, in the SADF, and
yeah. He went
very
recce.
well thought
Yeah.
of.
Yeah, no, he probably won't remember me, but give him my regards if you do see him.
Dog, what was the? I'm just trying to think of the American's name who did the columns. The
Uh,
American officer.
Murphy,
Yeah,
Murphy.
John Murphy.
Okay, John
Yeah.
Murphy. He left us and went to Parabats, and I believe he was killed in a parachute accident at
Yeah.
Tempe was it in
Yeah.
Bloemfontein. Yeah, yeah. There were a couple of Americans with us. Carl Henderson, and then the one that I can't remember his name. He ended up getting into a brawl or shooting up a, a band's vehicle or something outside a cock door, and got sent back. They were going to told him to Reed Daly told him to get out of the country and leave because he had a lot of trouble. So he left. Yeah,
Was this an American?
yeah. He ended up as being a on that film. Platoon or one of them. He ended up being an advisor on one of those sort of thing. I can't remember his name at the moment. Hell of a character.
Dog, did Bob Pike come to you guys? Bob Pike. Do you remember Bob?
Yeah, Bob was there for a while. Before my time, he was there for a while, and then in his usual fashion, got into a shoot up at some party, and they booted him, and then he went to elsewhere. He went to RR, and he beat up one of the majors, and then he went here and went there. He went to RR. He went all over the place. So eventually, I think he was thrown out of the country. Well, yeah, a very good soldier, very good, yeah, good soldier, but man, he's a psychopath. He
Yeah.
was always getting shootouts. He got kicked out of the SAS for trying to shoot up there, shot up the wing stagger or something. He was a good soldier, but he was a loose cannon.
And yet he could be so charming. I mean,
Yeah,
butter wouldn't melt in his mouth.
yeah, psychopaths usually are.
Then there was that other side to him.
Yeah.
Doug, no, Bert, I just want to ask you about, so Ron, eventually you'd had enough and you went to see Ron and said you were moving on. I think he was quite sorry to see you go.
Well, I don't know. I wasn't a very good soldier. He tried to talk me out of it. But by that stage, I was, I'd seen a bit of stuff, eh? Not so much action, but I'd seen stuff, burnt villages and dead civilians. There'd been a lot of civilians killed. And I still had that bit of a liberal bent. So I left, went back to the dye mines for a bit, and then came back to. I'm just going to interrupt you here, please. Yeah, and then so I left, went back to the dye mines for a bit. Met my future wife, Mags, who you know very well, and anyway, we came back here New Year's Day, 1980. New Year's Day, 1980, and I joined. Joined Tsetse Control, trying to get into parks. They rejected me for some reason. Spent a year in Tsetse Control, where interesting. Living out in the bush.
I remember this, Dick Callow.
Dick Callow, that's right.
Dick Callow
and Dirty Dicks, the pub.
And Lusulu. I remember I came to visit you there once.
Yeah, you did. You and Lane came and visited me.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was there for a year running a hunting team. Interesting. I did quite a bit of hunting. I thought I'd be sort of got the idea then to become a professional hunter. Dirty Dicks at the Sulu. And then I left, bumped into a friend of mine, Garth Thompson, at Hawangi Safari Lodge. And I said, hey, is there a job for me as a guide? And he said, yeah, there is. So I had an interview with Dave Rushworth.
Yes.
And I spent a year there. Man, boring. Just sitting in that vehicle, picking up passengers, taking for a drive.
Tell us a bit about the croc story quickly.
The croc story, yeah. Eventually, after a year, I'd actually had enough, so I handed in my resignation. Anyway, there was a croc that we used to feed down at one of the dams. Anyway, so I had a party to celebrate leaving, handing my resignation. Went to the Safari Lodge, and there was all these old ducks sitting there. And I said, no, I'm not there. So I took three of the most likely-looking guys and said, come. We're on a piss up at the moment. We're going to continue the piss up. So we went down to the dam and still drinking beer. And there was a croc. And and then we said, let's wrestle the croc. And we jumped into the dam and grabbed the croc, and people got bitten and all the rest of it. And I ended up with about 8 stitches or something. And some of the other guys were a little bit ripped up. Anyway, the word got back to the manager, John Krul, and he said, don't even bother coming to work tomorrow, you're fired. And I said, I've resigned, you can't fire me. And he said, you want to bet? And so
the story goes, some of the guests actually had nervous breakdowns after
Not quite. They were pretty shell-shocked, but not quite nervous breakdowns, I don't think.
Dog, and I think that's when you and I hooked up again. And then then you went.
Trevor gave us both a job at the same time in Forestry Commission. That was a good 5 years. Yeah, we were I was on Lake Kariba. Lake Kariba at Sigerera. Great, man. It was a great life, out in the bush there. I rebuilt the whole camp. I built a proper permanent building there. Both of us were hunting at the time. Because a lot of the forestry in those days was the wildlife section. We were both the wildlife section. So I had my hunter's license already. You were getting a hunter's license, but after 5 years and doing the odd hunt there, anti-poaching, fixing roads, built the camp. I realized I was never going to be a great hunter. I mean, if you're going to be a professional hunter, your heart's got to be in it.
Mm.
So, and I by that stage had realized my heart wasn't in it. So I thought at that stage, well, I'm not going to take the professional hunter's route, because my heart wasn't in it. I was never going to be any good at it. Unlike you, who thought you were going to be a great professional hunter and ended up with your testicles on a buffalo's horn, like societies on a stick. I didn't.
Yeah,
I realized earlier that I wasn't going to be. So I left him because it was becoming very Africanized at that stage. They weren't, if you're a European in Forestry Commission, there wasn't any future. So I left and then I started walking safaris.
yeah.
I didn't want to be driving around for like a glorified taxi driver like I was at Wangi Safari Lodge. But I wanted the excitement and the adrenaline of hunting, but I didn't want to hunt. So I did walking safaris, and that's what I did for 35 years, and in fact, still doing. Yeah, so I spent 35 years now as doing walking safaris, and great life, man. Yeah, just a great life, just lots
Dog,
of adventure.
you spent a lot of time in Chisarira. That was really your
Yeah, that's where
home
my
from
heart's.
home, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's where my heart is, and that's where my bones are going when I shuffle off the mortal coil. That's where my ashes are going. Uh, yeah, it's my heart that's where my heart is. Yeah,
Dog,
that's all go. That's all end up. That's my resting place.
talking about buffalo, you also had a couple of encounters. Just kind
Yeah,
of just talk us
yeah,
through one of them. I think there were two, but talk us through.
yeah. I've only had the only thing that's actually got hold of me was a buffalo. Was on a walk, bumped into a buffalo, ran in front of us, and told him to wait. Went up and had a look, and it was the tracker said, "Look, it's dragging wire." So I had a so I went back to the clients. I said, "Look, this is a wounded buffalo. Let's give it a bit of time." So we gave it about 10, 15 minutes, and then we went up and it had gone. So I said, I called everyone up. And then we followed it I left everyone a little bit behind me, went around. The buffalo had actually come off the riverbed and it had gone up the hills. And I said, okay, it's gone up into the hills. So we carried on, and about a kilometre further on, half a kilometre and a half, what had happened, the buffalo had gone up a hill, obviously found it too heavy going and had come back down. And it charged. And I couldn't see it. All I could see was it bellowing and the bush coming down towards me. And there was a big bush in front of me. So I shoved the gun through the bush and I fired. And buffalo hit the bush, hit me, and I was underneath it. And I was getting rolled and kicked and stood on. And eventually I came, when it stopped rolling, everyone was yelling behind me. And I was lying on my stomach with the gun underneath me, and the bolt was open full of dirt, and there was blood spurting out all over the place. So I didn't know how badly I'd been hurt, but I could hear all this yelling and screaming behind me. And anyway, I've always thought, well, if I, and I tried to stand, I thought if I can get to my feet, I'm all right. And I was trying to stand up, and I couldn't move. And I thought, Jesus, this thing's broken my back. Anyway, I've always thought, well, if I couldn't walk or couldn't walk, or had to be in a cripple the rest of my life, I didn't want to live. I had an instant change of plan there. I said, man, I don't care if I'm in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. I can go to the bar, I can watch TV, go watch all the sport. I don't need my feet. Anyway, there's a lot of yelling and screaming going on behind me. So I turned to have a look, and the buffalo had collapsed on my legs, obviously stunned, collapsed on my legs, and I was pinned. It was sitting on me like a dog on my legs, and that's why I couldn't move. So I was yelling at my tracker, Gripper, who I'd always let him carry a 357 pistol in case I got into a situation like that. And I was yelling at him, kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it. And, he was a great tracker, one of the best I've ever had. But he really had this overdeveloped sense of self-preservation, man, and he was off, leaving me there. And the clients, the buffaloes, staggered off my feet and started chasing them. And there was the riverbed next to me, and they were jumping one by one into the riverbed. And got up at that stage, but it's pissing blood everywhere. My glasses gone, trying to cock my weapons full of dirt, trying to clean it, trying to get around into the chamber. And everybody eventually, except one girl, she was still running, but she eventually fell down out of exhaustion or whatever. The buffalo got on the top of her. So everyone came running back. Anyway, so I said to there was a little Japanese girl that said, how bad is this? How bad is this wound? How bad is my head, this injury? And she looked at him, whoop, and she fell over, fainted. I looked at her, oh, shit. So I said to the next one, how bad is this? And she took it, said, well, it's pretty bad. So I said, well, take a photograph. She had digital cameras had just come out. Took a photo and showed me, and what it was, just a whole lot of cuts on the side of my head, bleeding like anything. Anyway, I thought, shit, okay, I'm trying to find my glasses. Anyway, I felt something warm down the back of my legs. And I thought, shit, I've got to, this thing's caught me. And I put my hand down there and came out with a handful of shit myself. Christ's sake, I better shut my pants, man. I better make a plan. I've got to kill him. I can't let this story get back to Vic Falls. So I thought I'd have to make a plan, or otherwise kill all my clients, so there weren't any witnesses. So I'm backing off now, trying to get a bit of privacy. My clients are following me. You say, "Oh, we look over here." I'm saying, "Oh, you go and look for my glasses. You go and just you go." And eventually, I managed to get behind a bush, and I took down my rods, and there was no dump in my pants. I thought, "Gee, what's going on here?" So I had a better look, and what had happened when the buffalo was sitting on me. It had shat on me. And anyway, so that's my story away, and I'm sticking to it. Yeah.
So,
Anyway, quite just one of those things that happened. It's the only thing. I had a lion knock a rifle out of my hand in a charge. I've been charged by more rhino than I think anybody on earth. I've had hundreds hundreds of rhino charges, but always managed to get away from them. And yeah, I've had a couple of elephant charges. I walk 3,500 kilometers every year over 35 years. And in that entire time, I've had to shoot two lion, three lion. Yeah, three lion, two buffalo, one elephant. So if you consider the amount of time I've walked, all of it in wildlife areas, it's a pretty good record. Yeah. And
well,
every time I've killed something, it's been unavoidable. Yeah. At the same time, Hannes, you see people. Had this one stupid woman start attacking me in public about, at a waterhole about how many walking and how I end up shooting animals. And I said to her, I picked up between 25 and 30,000 snares because I'm walking. 25, we picked one backpack, one 18-day backpack. I picked up 750 snares. And that was on regular. So I might have killed 3 animals or 4 animals, whatever, but I've probably saved thousands. And I've myself personally arrested probably 20, 30 poachers. Information that I've given to parks have picked up, tracks of snare lines and that. They've arrested hundreds of poachers. I've been in 4 shootouts with armed poachers, where, 2 dead, 2 wounded. So
just tell us a bit about that ordeal. I mean, it was, to my mind, that was a horror story.
Yeah. Which one are you talking
about? The one that you shot and were then charged with murder.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, that was the second. That was the second fatal shooting. The first one, Hannes, I bumped into these guys. Saw a camp, a poacher's camp up on a ridge. A lot of meat hanging from it, all the rest of it. So I left all my clients behind, and I took my tracker, and he was, desperately trying to get out of it. So, oh no, I'll say, what's your clients? And I said, no, you come with me. Anyway, while we were getting up on this camp, this guy was walking down the riverbed, and he had a bottle of water, had a bottle in one hand, and I didn't see it, but he had a .303 rifle upside down on a sling over his shoulder on his right side, and I was on his left side. So when we got up, as he came past us, we were on the bend in a river, and I stepped out and said, "Put it down," meaning the water bottle. And he bent down, put the water bottle down, and when he came up, he brought his rifle up at the same time, and he got buck fever. He cocked it. There was a round in it, because I saw the round flying out, and he cocked it, and I shot at him, aiming for his chest. Anyway, he turned and ran, and he ran up a bank, and I thought, well, I can't get him, so I tried to shoot him in the legs, and the ground went between his legs. He went over the top of the ridge, and he was gone. I thought, geez, I was 10 meters from him and 5 meters from him, and I missed him. Anyway, I ran up to try and get into the camp, and run about 50 meters, and there he was lying on the ground, so on top of his rifle. So I kicked him off the rifle, and he was unconscious. I thought, so I aimed at his chest, and with my usual great shooting, I missed his chest. Anyway, so I thought, well, I must have hit him, or he didn't faint from fright or something. He was snoring, so he was still alive. I saw a little bit of blood coming off his head, so I pulled it. He was wearing a woolen cap, pulled it off, and the bullet had gone through the side of his head. He ran 50 meters. Anyway, I got everybody out of there. I put a drip in him, tried to sort him out, put a pressure bandage on his head, but he died. He had the rifle, so he got away with that. I wasn't charged or anything. The second one, we were walking down a riverbed, smelled smoke, left clients behind, went up ahead. And there were 6, 7 guys inside the riverbed around having breakfast. and I was OP then for a while, 2 303s. Anyway, so I thought, okay, well, what do I do here? So got 303. So what I was waiting for the two guys to come, the rifles to come together, and then I was gonna shoot them. I mean, armed poachers is the shoot to kill policy, but I was only going to get one shot off, so I wanted them together and try and do it through and through. Anyway, it never happened, and then half the group split off and went away. The other half the group walked, four of them walked towards me. So when they got close to me, I stepped out from behind a rock and I said, "Stop!" And they ran. And the guy with the rifle lifted up the weapon and pointed at me, and I took a shot at him, but the shot missed, and it went past him and hit the damn cook that was running away. And the guy with the rifle ran. He managed to get, the guy with the cook, the round had gone right through him and tore him to pieces, but he wasn't dead. Anyway, sent the clients back, got the National Parks guys in, and because it was a guy that didn't have a weapon, I was charged with murder, which went on for 5 years. Yeah, I was up on a murder charge for 5 years, even though they found the guys with the rifles and all the rest of it. They refused to drop the charge. And then eventually the Attorney General said there's no proof here and declined to prosecute. So it went away. Yeah. But I spent 5 years on a murder charge. It's a long time. It takes it out of you, man.
Long time. Dog, yeah. My heart went out to you when you went through that ordeal.
Yeah. I've got a great family. My wife, everybody else was very supportive.
Dog, on a lighter note, the story about taking the TV remote.
Well, that's one of my stories that I'm supposed to write about because I can write, but everybody's stolen that story. But the World Cup rugby was on. I think it was I can't remember 2000 and something. The World Cup rugby was on, and I had an 18-day backpack around Chisarera. So anyway, I was watching a bit of World Cup rugby, and it was quite late into the dry season, so I was worried about water on this 18-day backpack. So I was sitting there on my GPS, putting all the coordinates, coordinates and for springs. It was those old military maps that were very good. Gave you all the spring lines, the perennials, the permanents, whatever. So watch a bit of TV, watch a bit of rugby, come back, in my GPS, put a couple of coordinates in for spring lines or whatever, permanent water, go back, watch a bit of rugby. Anyway, I set off to Chisarera with four people, I think, 5 people. 18-day backpack. First day, no problem at all. Get to a spring, set up camp, go for a bit of a walk. Next day, go down to the Machezu Valley, which there's a spring at the end of it, which never dried up, ever. Anyway, I get there, there's a puddle of water. So I thought, well, okay. So I said to my camp staff, okay, throw all this dirty water out. Fresh water comes in, take a bit of water, fill up all the water bottles. Go for a walk, come back in about 2 hours' time. Said, how much water did you get? And they said, nothing. That's it. And I said, oh, no. What do I do now? So, well, that's all right. I know there's a spring about 2-3 Ks from here. I'll just go to that spring. Anyway, I take out my GPS and I look at it for about 30 seconds, trying to figure out what the hell how to work this thing. And I look at it. And then much my distress, I found I've taken the remote control for the TV and I've left my GPS at home. And it doesn't matter how much I change the program or hit rewind, nothing happened, man. So for 18 days I was stranded while my poor wife is home with the GPS trying to figure out
how to work the television.
Remote control. Yeah, just another story. Yeah, just another story.
There are plenty of them. But the comment I love, which knowing you as well as I do, I know you're not famous for being organized. And,
no, I'm not.
And the comment I love is I think it was the Australian who put in your visitors book that something about, this is the 4th time I've been on one of these fuck ups and I'm going to keep coming until this prick gets it right.
Yeah, that's Steve, pretty boy Steve. Yeah, that was, and he's been back since then, so he's still coming back to try and get it right. Yeah, he's a very good friend of mine. Pretty boy Steve. Yeah.
Dog, it's been very interesting. I want to now get to where you are today in life. I know you're going tomorrow back to America to just tell us about what you're doing. And
Yeah, there's the Pacific Crest Trail.
okay, but just tell us why you're doing it.
Okay, the Pacific Crest Trail. It's Mexico to Canada. Read about it in the National Geographic when I was 17. I said I'll do that one day, and then life happens, so you never get around to doing it. And then Tim Braybrook, I think you remember, he died about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, and he left a pile of National Geographics to me. He left his library to me and pile of National Geographics, and it fell over, and I picked up the first one, and that was the very one, that very article. And then about 2 years ago, 18 months ago, my oldest daughter, Kelly, got cancer, cervical cancer. We went through all the normal rigmarole, the chemo and the radiation and brachytherapy, and nothing worked, eh? And she was, pretty close to final. Anyway, so the docs told us there's only one thing to do now, and it's this autoimmune thing called Keytruda. So we said, okay, fine, let's get onto it. Anyway, it very, very expensive. It's $5,000 every 3 weeks for 35 treatments. I mean, it's for us, we're not poor, but we're not that well off. I mean, it's so I thought, well, we'll do a GoFundMe, and I'll go and walk the Pacific Crest. We did. She's got various things on, but we did this Miles for Medicine thing, Miles for Medicine, to buy this immunotherapy drug. And then I thought, well, I'll get sponsorship to go and walk the Pacific Crest. Anyways, it's a lottery system now. It's so popular. Anyway, I won a place in the lottery, starting halfway through March. And then I took off a lot harder than I thought it was, a lot more difficult than I thought it was. Anyway, I've done about 450 kilometers, and then I tore a tendon. So I had to take 4 weeks to 6 weeks for it to mend, and then then have a check. Anyway, I've been off the trail for 4 weeks. I didn't want to spend it in the States, so I came back for it. I'm going back. I'm only 4 weeks off the trail. By the time I get back on the trail, it'll be 5 weeks. I think my leg is sorted. Luckily, I've been very careful with icing, compression, all the rest of it. Anyway, so I've got this Miles for Medicine GoFundMe up and running. We've raised enough money to cover a couple of treatments. We're about halfway through the immunotherapy. There's now another drug that she's on, which is another 500, so it's 5,500 every 3 weeks. We're getting towards halfway through. So yeah. Anyway, I don't know if there's anybody out there that wants to donate or whatever. You've got all the contact deals, contact for that, Miles for Medicine.
We'll put that out, Doug. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Yeah. Anyway, so she's doing well on it. Okay. Mentally, of course, she's struggling. Physically, she's looking good. Anyway, it's a whole lot of things coming together. The wanting to do something when I was 17. That was in 1971, and I'm 71 years old now. So if you believe in numerology, there's a whole lot of threads coming together. The National Geographic from Tim Braybrook, my daughter getting sick, there's a whole lot of threads coming together. So yeah, hopefully we can get through this. Yeah, but it's for your kids. So you do anything for your kids.
Well, Doug, take note off to you, and
thank you.
Wish you strength.
All right, thank you.
Certainly. Do my best to help however I can, and good seeing you the other day, and stay in touch, and really look forward to seeing you when you get back, Doc, but I'll stay in touch.
Okay. All right, Hannes, great talking to you, man. Stay in touch, eh?
Thanks, buddy. Stay strong.
All right. Go well.